Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. This is the English translation of the Majlis of Hazrat Maulana Qamar Uzzaman Saheb Damat Barakatuhum, which took place on the 23rd of Rabi'ul Awwal 1446, 27th of September 2024. Hazrat Wala is starting off by quoting the ayat of the Quran Majid, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyya fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. So here the author is saying that know well that this tadbir, planning, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, etc., whatever it is actually coming from the side of the nafs. And this here is coming about because of the barrier that is present there between that nafs or that person and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If a person's heart was completely safe and sound from all of this, coming, going, debating all of this, it would have not knocked the door of tadbir and planning and doing this and doing that. Now, this ayat of the Quran Majid, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna, Allah Ta'ala deal with us in accordance with this particular ayat. हम लोगों के साथ इस आयत के मुताबिक मामला फरमा. Now here it is echoing actually the voice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are listening to the voice of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This kitab is an amazing kitab. In Makkah Mukarrama, Hazrat Haji Imdadullah says, Ashraf Ali, translate this kitab, it will be of tremendous benefit to the people. Hazrat Tanvi then goes on to say that I was not worthy of that. I came for another maqsad. It was the hukum of my peer and my sheikh. I carried it out. I would translate every day and then I would show it to him. Our Hazrat Wala is saying, to the best of my understanding, I understand it this way, that whatever usul Hazrat Tanvi had derived or put up and set up his whole maslak with, he took it out from this particular kitab. I read this kitab on many different occasions. I read it out to the people in Makkah Mukarrama as well. Rather, I sent my people, when I got the Urdu, Maulana Mohammad passed it on to me. Then I said, no, let's get the original, the essence, the Arabic. Then I sent my people and they went out into the bazaars and they found it at 2 a.m. in Makkah Mukarrama. In fact, I even tried to start off the tarjuma, but when I looked at the tarjuma of Hazrat Tanvi, I said, no, there cannot be any tarjuma like this here. So here, Sheikh Ibn Ataullah Iskandari is saying, I heard from my Sheikh Abu Abbas, rahimahullah, that Inna Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah ta'ala, when He created the earth upon water, then it was very, very unstable and it began to tremble and shake this way and that way. فَأَرْسَاهَا بِالْجِبَالِ, then Allah ta'ala then pegged and made firm and entrenched the earth by means of mountains, like how Allah Ta'ala says, وَالْجِبَالَ أَرْسَاهَا. In a similar manner, when Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala created the nafs was also unstable, going this way, that way, etc. Allah Ta'ala entrenched, pegged this nafs by means of the mountains of the mind, aql and intelligence. Now here, the kalam of Sheikh Abu Abbas comes to an end. Sheikh Ibn Ataullah Iskandari then goes on to say, whichever servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his aql, his mind and intelligence becomes complete and his nur becomes vast, it is then that the sakina from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts to descend upon him, and his nafs then becomes completely sakin, completely calm from any type of uneasiness, any type of istirab, being shaky, etc. And at that time, this particular nafs understands well and has the conviction in its Allah, that its Allah is the creator of all asbab. It thus then become mutma'in, completely calm and contented, and it comes out completely from the tadbir, planning this and planning that and doing this and doing that, and this fight, quarrel and debate with taqdeer. Rather, it hands itself completely and totally over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing well that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching me all the time. أَوَلَمْ يَكْفِ بِرَبِّكَ أَنَّهُ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ شَهِيدٍ. So at this time here, this nafs then deserves to be called by this particular address. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. So now just look at it. How is it and what has actually happened for this nafs to become or be called or become the addressee of this address? يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة. What was it when the aql becomes kamil and the nur becomes vast? The sakina from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts to descend, and when this happens, the nafs becomes completely sakin and calm from any type of movement, any type of restlessness, and it has full conviction that Allah ta'ala is sufficient. Allah is the creator of all asbab. It becomes contented. It becomes subdued, calm, contented with the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the hukam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It becomes well entrenched in front of the qaza and the decision of Allah. Whatever comes, it is from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this nafs is helped by the nur of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It comes out completely from this year that I'm doing this and I'm doing that, this debate and this fight against taqdeer. Rather, it hands itself over to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing well that Allah ta'ala is watching. Alam yakfi bi rabbika. Is that not sufficient for you regarding your Rabb, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is witness to everything? At that time it becomes deserving to be called and addressed by this great address. يا أيتها النفس المطمئنة ارجعي إلى ربك راضية مرضية فادخلي في عبادي وادخلي جنتي. So this nafs humbled itself completely. It lowered himself as much as making itself as equal to the earth, something that is trampled upon. So when that is the case, then Allah Ta'ala calls that nafs then to the arsh. Jisne mitaya apna namo nisha haft aqlim ka bana sulta. Hazrat Maulana Mohammad Ahmad Saheb used to say these couplets abundantly to us. It is his ash'ar. He would say, the person who annihilated himself, removed and destroyed any traces of himself, hid himself completely, was humble to the greatest limits, he then became the ruler. He then reigned supreme. The Musannif himself is a great personality. You understood yourself to be weak and lowly, just like that of the earth. Now come, the time has come You took this personality, shakhsiyat, hasti, you threw that away. You made it nesto nabood. You came out of this concept of personality. I'm this personality, etc. Our Hazrat Wala is saying, do you think this kitab to be an ordinary kitab? Just so short and concise like this here? When a person comes out of this ananiyat, me, I, this, that, the other, and then he destroys all of that, then it is only Allah, wahdatul wujud. Hazrat Tanvi passed through all of this here. You know, the grand personality in Darul Deoban who was in charge at that time there of adab and language, the Arabic language translation, etc. When he had a look at the translation of this particular kitab, he remarked and he said that Ashraf Ali, it is only Ashraf Ali that could have carried out a translation of this caliber and this nature. You lowered yourself so much. You made yourself equal to the sand that people trample upon. You did not understand any status for yourself. It is then that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called you. You did not understand any stage or status for yourself. Apne liye koi darja nahi rakha. You did not understand anything of that. Then for Allah ta'ala to give, is it difficult? We should ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because for Allah to give is nothing. He is the owner of it. وَمَا ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ بِعَزِيزٍ. You have humbled yourself tremendously. Self-effacement, annihilation of the nafs. Now what are you sitting in this dunya? Come to me. فَدُخُلِي فِي عِبَادِي وَدُخُلِي جَنَّتِي. Now, lower yourself. Annihilation, self-effacement. Then what will happen? It is then that you will reach. Meto अपना नामो निशा मिटा बेटा शोहरा उड़ा दिया मेरा किसने. Hazrat Haji Imdadullah used to say that I hid myself completely and totally, erased all signs that led to myself. I just wonder so much that who spread this popularity and fame for me. So leave that jaumpuri, leave that hut of yours that you are in and come to my arsh. So in this particular ayat, Ya ayyatuhan nafsul mutma'inna irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan mardiyah fadkhuli fi ibadi wadkhuli jannati. There are many specialities and many qualities and characteristics of this great nafs, the nafs mutma'inna. You see, the nufus, you can put them into three categories: the nafs ammara, the nafs lawwama, and the nafs mutma'inna. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not address any one of these nafs other than the nafs mutma'inna. It deserved to be addressed. It reached such a level. It is then that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala addressed the particular nafs. So, the kunniyat here actually, the laqab, the title, the characteristic of this nafs is given. And normally amongst the Arab, it was a great sense of honor when people were called by their kunniyat. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala praises this nafs by being calm, peaceful and contented. Now all of this was because it became totally obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and it put its trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we become totally obedient to Allah, we hand ourselves completely and totally over to Him, and we put our trust in Him, it is then that we will reach this nafs and mutma'inna, that level. Now Allah Ta'ala describes it with this characteristic of being contented and mutma'in. Now what is this mutma'inna actually it is al-munkhafid min al-ard, the low-lying land. فَلَمَّا انْخَفَضَتْ بِتَوَاضُعِهَا وَإِنْكِسَارِهَا, when it humbled itself by means of itself being helpless and with complete and total humility in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then begins praising it, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes apparent how great this nafs has then become. Now, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam himself has said, "Man tawadu'a lillah rafa'ahu Allah." The person who humbles himself for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then elevates this particular nafs. So, irji'i ila rabbiki radiyatan maradiyya. In this year, there is indication and a sign that the nafs of Ammara and Lawwama will not be given this permission to return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a most honorable return. Rather, this year is solely kept, this wealth, for the nafs mutma'inna, and it is because it has become mutma'inna, it will be said to it, to this nafs, irji'i ila rabbiki, return to your Rabb. We have made permissible for you entrance into our company. Wal khulud fi jannatina, and we have made permissible for you that you would have Jannah forever and forever. Now in all of this, there is such great encouragement for the servant to reach this maqam of tuma'nina. And no person can ever reach there except by obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and adamut tadbir, meaning handing yourself over to Allah, that whatever Allah chooses for me, whatever comes my way from the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I am pleased with that. You know, Hazrat Maulana Shah Wasiullah Saheb's maqam was so high that we could not even understand it. Now, whenever people would come to him, according to how high their status was, accordingly, he would then go in humbling them. उसके मिटाने में लगते थे, उजुब के मिटाने में कोशिश करते थे. He would go all out in humbling them completely and totally and removing that element of self-conceitedness. You know, he had that haqq, he knew it to its fullest of mitana, how to bring that person down and how to teach him that and bring that into him. You know, we would go and meet him. It was the time of Fajr. He gave the bayan at Isha. When we go there, he's nowhere to be seen. Subah kahi, Sham kahi, Raat kahi. In the morning he's somewhere, in the mid-afternoon somewhere else, and in the evening somewhere else, completely restless, beqarari. What a thin, small kitab this is. People don't even know about it. It is absolutely important. It has the life, spirit and essence of tasawwuf in it. Whatever usul Hazrat Tanvi made, it was taken from this particular kitab. Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of understanding and walking this path. Allah Ta'ala give us the tawfiq and the hidayat of walking in the light. Is kitab ki roshni mein chalne ki tawfiq de. This path is Allah's path. We should ask Him. If He so wishes, He can let us traverse and accomplish and walk this kitab in a matter of, walk this path in a matter of moments. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take us all out of the nafs ammara and takes us out and brings us into nafs mutma'innah. Allahumma inna nas'aluka nafsan bika mutma'innah tu'minu biliqa'ik wa tarda biqada'ik wa taqna'u bi'ata'ik. Rabbana taqabbal minna innaka antas samiul alim wa tub alayna innaka antat tawwabur rahim. Bihurmati sayyidin nabiyyil kareem sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.